Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today I'm looking at the 2018 to 2019 series, Black Panther vs. Deadpool. It's hard to think of characters that could be more opposite than Black Panther and Deadpool. BP is, of course, T'Challa, son of T'Chaka, king of the hidden African country of Wakanda, a man of endless responsibility and the weight of the world on his shoulders. He's often written very much like Batman, all analytical, 5 steps ahead of everybody else at all times, brooding, and darkly serious. Deadpool, aka Wade Wilson, on the other hand, is the infamous merc with a mouth. With no allegiance to anything, no sense of responsibility, and usually used just to break the fourth wall a lot and make a lot of smart-ass comments about how comics are written. Which is all fine and well, Mr. Poole, but today that's gonna be my job, okay? Despite their differences, it's actually not entirely unprecedented for the two to run across each other. In the 90s, for example, comic writer Christopher Priest was writing both Deadpool and Black Panther for Marvel. And so it wasn't very long before he worked out a crossover story between the two titles, leading to a particularly memorable story in a series that was already pretty great on its own. Since that time, Black Panther has married his longtime love interest Storm, had the marriage annulled, had his home country of Wakanda invaded by Dr. Doom, lost his mantle to his sister Shuri, and then, following the Secret Wars event, became king once again in a new series written by Ta-Nehisi Coates himself. Oh, and starred in his own movie that made over $1 billion in the worldwide box office. I don't know, maybe you've heard of it. Similarly, Deadpool has... well, no, actually, Deadpool has mostly just continued to be Deadpool. But hey, he had a couple movies too, I guess, so, you know, good for him. Then in 2018, writer Daniel Kibblesmith and artist Ricardo Lopez Ortiz decided to bring the two characters together for reasons that I'm sure are totally outside of just capitalizing on their popularity, heightened by their Hollywood film appearances. So let's see just what craziness ensues when these two worlds collide, and take this away. The comic opens in Wakanda, as the Wakandans celebrate the, I'm gonna go with that being pronounced Ubusuku Bokufa, or Night of the Dead, when the veil between life and death is at its thinnest and the country celebrates by dressing up in colorful costumes and eating candy. It's totally not just the Wakandan Halloween. No, it's not, Deadpool, shut up! For their not Halloween celebration, some kids are dressed up as superheroes, including this one tiny Avenger dressed as Black Panther. Aw, so cute. And King T'Challa shows his solidarity to his fellow Black Panther by offering her an American chocolate bar, which he says is basically just poison, but Black Panther is strong. This has the unexpected result of making the child burst into tears. Aw, don't worry, T'Challa, she's probably just crying from all the Gap Moe. Mwah. Me too, kid. Me too. Well, they say it's because she has nothing to give him in return, to which T'Challa replies that she has already given him everything. Aw, T, you're such a good king. So let's get to someone who isn't a good king at all. Cut to Deadpool, who's busy reading a book that for copyright reasons is totally not Richard Scarry. See? Scary Richard. Totally different. You might applaud DP's literary interest if it weren't for the fact that he's reading it while driving a school bus full of kids down a busy highway while on the run from the wrecker in hot pursuit in a wrecking ball crane, as he wants to kidnap the children and shout really, really bad puns. Get it? Ted Meat? Deadpool? Yeah. The wrecking crew aren't known for their brains. Or as Deadpool puts it, no wonder the wrecker's not in any of the movies. To deal with the wrecker, Deadpool has little Timmy here take over driving. Oh, wait, his name's not Timmy? It's Lin-Manuel Barack Khaleesi? Of course it is. Oh, huh. It's probably not a good sign that I'm having the same reaction to things as Deadpool. Poole takes Wrecker out in his usual destructive, reckless way, ending in him punishing the villain by taking away his enchanted crowbar. Yeah, he has an enchanted crowbar, from this one time that he was mistaken for Loki. It's a whole thing. Look, the 70s were a crazy time, okay? But while Deadpool may be the hero here, his actions are not without consequences. It seems that the friendly neighborhood mailman Willie Lumpkin was caught in the collateral, and now he has a piece of shrapnel lodged near his heart that can't be removed without risk of killing him. Willie Lumpkin, for those who aren't super long-time Marvel fans, has been a very long-lived character within the Marvel Universe, most notably as the mailman for the Fantastic Four, and even appeared in the live-action Fantastic Four movie, played by none other than Smilin' Stan Lee himself. And I've now referenced that movie 2 weeks in a row. Wow, that's probably bad. What's interesting about that, on a sadder note, is this comic came out in 2018, when this character famously played once by Stan Lee receives this grievous injury, and 1 month later, Stan Lee himself would be dead. Real bummer. But old Lumpkin isn't dead yet. According to the doctor at the hospital Deadpool takes him to, he can still save his life with just a small shard of vibranium. Deadpool, being a lunatic, thinks, hey, BP will of course help me, so he heads off to Wakanda. To get inside, since, you know, its borders are in general closed to the outside, Deadpool sneaks into a shipment of animals destined for Wakanda while disguised as an elephant. Very convincingly disguised, might I add. Of course elephants say moo. What's wrong with you? God. But it turns out that T'Challa isn't especially willing to give Deadpool a piece of vibranium that happens to be about the size of a bullet. Deadpool insists it's not like that and proceeds to break down exactly how these superhero mix-ups tend to go. And, well, he may just prove to be more or less correct. And also his list here lends itself to the individual issue titles, just in case the speech on its own isn't fourth wall breaking enough for you. Black Panther isn't persuaded by this argument since, you know, to him it would just sound like the nonsensical ravings of a madman, so we move into the small misunderstanding fight. But Deadpool should know that he has no chance at actually besting Black Panther. BP quickly takes care of him by disarming him, with the use of a laser prototype he's developed that's intended as a medical device. It cuts cleanly and immediately cauterizes the wound, as he demonstrated earlier in the comic on this peach. Black Panther and Sister Shuri find the ability to cut off Wade's arm very interesting, because Deadpool has a healing factor that should be regrowing his arm right away. For those that don't know, Deadpool got his powers from the Weapon X program, the same one that gave Wolverine his adamantium claws, and he submitted himself to the program to cure the cancer that was killing him. The process was more or less successful, but while he gained a healing factor that ensured he would become basically unkillable, the cancer never really went away. So what T'Challa and Shuri discover here is that the healing effects of the particles from the laser weapon are preventing the regrowth because it's actually the cancer that's growing back, not the healthy flesh. Panther decides he wants to study the severed arm more, but doesn't need Deadpool around to do it, so he uses Deadpool's own teleportation device to send him outside of Wakanda, where he runs into some trophy hunters. He could give up and go home, but that's not very Deadpool to do. So he cuts off one of the hunter's arms so he can attach it to his own body and have all his limbs when he returns to Wakanda. Before he heads back, though, he discovers that one of them shot a zebra, and it's just bleeding out on the ground now. So he decides to put it out of its misery. Weird that he throws away the arm, though. Meanwhile, Panther is relieving some tension in a very Batman way by fighting holographic images of his fellow Avengers so that he can be sure he knows how to defeat them should the need ever arise. Seriously, that's such a Batman thing to do. Part of Panther's tension is due to the fact that he's discovered that between Wade's healing factor and the star cell technology of his fancy laser gun, he can apparently cure death itself. Can't help but feel that seems like a bad thing, though. T'Challa's not too sure about it either, and even consults with his mother about whether it's a good idea or not to use it, and she doesn't seem to think so, given her reference to Louis XVI. Panther doesn't have much time to get his Batman brooding on about it though, because Deadpool gets back into the palace for his piece of vibranium with help from his new arm. That zebra's head. That's kinda messed up, D. The two continue their small misunderstanding, but it turns out Panther's not even there, and Deadpool has just been fighting a hologram, prompting him to make a Quantum Leap reference. That's not important, I just wanted to point that out because I love that show. Seriously, Quantum Leap kicks ass. When Panther learns that Deadpool attached the zebra head to his arm not just to be funny, but to actually save the poor creature from a-hole poachers, he decides to go easy on the mercenary. But just then, they receive word that someone else is attacking Wakanda, meaning it's time for the big team up against the real villain. At least, according to Deadpool's understanding of the rhythm of these things. Though I'm not sure you quite got the order down right there, DP. Not only was that last fight totally not a tie, Panther handed you your ass, but it also wasn't much of a big fight. It was only like 2 pages. I think we're still in the small misunderstanding territory here, but hey, what do I know? The big villain turns out to be Jack-O-Lantern, who, let's face it, is nobody's idea of a big villain. Jack had nearly been killed in a previous Venom story, and even seems to think that he really was dead, but ended up surviving and being healed back to health, and reintroduced into civilian life with a dead-end job that made him feel like life had no meaning. I feel ya, Jack. Maybe start a YouTube channel. Helped me. Instead, one day Jack sees Deadpool headed to Wakanda, and is somehow not fooled by D's super convincing elephant disguise. Deciding that the only meaning left in life is pain, Jack follows Deadpool to Wakanda in the hopes of having a big fight and maybe even being killed for real this time. On the way to confront Jackie Boy, Panther reveals that he's known all along what Deadpool's reasons are for wanting the vibranium, stating that they have eyes everywhere, even on septuagenarian mailmen in New York City apparently. That seems unlikely honestly, and I'm betting more that he's just letting Deadpool think he knew all along, and probably actually had a team of people look into the issue after Deadpool showed up the first time. It's all part of his Batman-esque mystique. He also says that the chance that the treatment would even work on Willie Lumpkin is about 1,000,000 to 1. So you're saying there's a chance? As with every other fight Black Panther's had in this series, the showdown with Jack-O-Lantern is over super quick. Panther asks Deadpool to secure the villain while he checks on the family that was being attacked, but Deadpool takes that to mean shoot the villain in the effing head. Oh shit, that's bad. And in front of a kid too. Oh, Deadpool. Well, I guess at least he's really dead this time. Panther then sends the kid indoors so he can dole out his own lethal punishment on Deadpool. Brutal. Panther brings Deadpool's 2 parts back to the castle, and on the way we learn that in the Marvel universe, Ta-Nehisi Coates and BP talk frequently, and I love that idea. Man, the things those two could talk about. That like, nobody else in the entire world would be able to understand. Seriously, those are some ridiculously smart dudes. Have you read his Black Panther series? It reads like a doctoral dissertation. T'Challa plans to hold Deadpool for a time, but that literally explodes in his face when it turns out Deadpool has a dead man switch on some C4 in one of the pockets of his super useful utility belt. This lets Deadpool get away, and he runs across a prototype Black Panther outfit and puts it on. It even identifies him and adjusts to his preference, making him into Pantherpool. No, wait. Dead Panther. No, definitely Pantherpool. Oh. Again, probably a bad sign that I had the same reaction to something as Deadpool. Oh well. Also, weird that the suit is able to identify him, meaning they programmed it to detect his specific DNA or something, but they didn't put in any safeguards so that psychopathic murderers didn't get access to use very dangerous experimental technology. Well, at least it led to this absolutely classic issue cover. How you like me? Meow. Panther doesn't like him, meow, but doesn't get much say in the matter because DP just kinda nopes out of there, teleporting himself in a very plot-convenient way, straight into the Great Mound, the world's largest vibranium mine. Holy whiskers, Batman! Oh, what, you went with a Spider-Man joke? Pfft, amateur. Not sure how to mine a metal that absorbs impact, Deadpool uses more magical plot convenience, and by that I mean he uses the magical crowbar that he took from the wrecker at the beginning of the story. Remember that? How about after a flashback? Poole takes Wrecker out in his usual destructive, reckless way, ending in him punishing the villain by taking away his enchanted crowbar. See? I told you that happened. The crowbar causes the vibranium to vibrate at a mysterious frequency that then interacts with Deadpool's teleporter to teleport him and the entire mountain to... New Jersey? Well, it's the last place anyone would want to look for it, am I right, New Yorkers? Deadpool immediately decides to take advantage of his strange fortune by simply selling the vibranium to anyone who can actually mine the stuff. Not that he gets the chance, because Panther shows up and they finally actually have the big fight that Wade talked about. And it ends with them in a cemetery, where T'Challa is able to pull Wade into the land of the dead to get the help of all his past ancestors. He can do that? Cool. But to top it all off, Deadpool ends up fighting himself? Because it seems, as T'Challa kinda suggested earlier, Deadpool died a long time ago and just the cancer keeps growing back. This gives Deadpool the profound personal realization that even he thinks he talks too much. It's pretty true. The Land of the Dead thing turns out to be another hologram, but both Deadpool and Black Panther seem to have learned something from each other in all of this. What Deadpool learns is that even though he's trying to be a good guy, he was, basically, the bad guy of this story. What Black Panther learns is that being a leader means allowing your people to change, even if it's frustrating to watch them fail. He's definitely subtexting right now, Deadpool. So instead of giving Deadpool vibranium, T'Challa gives Willie Lumpkin the cure for death that Black Panther came up with earlier, which will allow them to find a way to remove the shrapnel without danger and eventually allow him to be healed. Preferably, as T'Challa says, around the time they find a way to reverse the whole never dying thing. T'Challa then takes the magical crowbar and presumably Wade's teleporter and heads off to return the mountain to Wakanda. With him leaving, Deadpool declares him as forfeiting their fight, meaning yeah, Deadpool wins. Way to go, buddy. Now just wait to see how he handles Fin Fang Foom. That doesn't really happen. Or does it? Maybe we'll find out in the breakdown. Mainly, I would say that I'm not a big fan of the art. I definitely recognize that it has a lot of good things going for it. I love how Ortiz makes sure to include the crowbar in almost every possible shot so you can never forget it's there. It's also actually one of a relatively few number of comics that I've covered on this channel where I can't think of a single time where I couldn't tell what was happening because of the art. Which is pretty impressive, seeing as the art seems to be intentionally designed to be a bit messy and wavy, which is what I'm not a big fan of. It looks kinda weird, honestly, and the coloring looks very bland. Whenever I think of this comic in my head, it's all just kinda one color, mainly yellow, because the colors they use just don't really pop. And this is probably a stylistic choice because for some reason having attractive, clean art on a funny comic is practically a blasphemous idea in the comics industry. But personally, I find messy styles like this distracting, making it hard to focus on the comedy. And the comedy in this series is pretty good. I mean, if you actually find this channel funny, then you'd probably find this comic funny too. But more than that, it's very well written in all regards. Kibblesmith does a really great job of getting into the heads of both characters and presenting them very appropriately. It's very tempting in comedic stories to have all the characters acting very out of character for the sake of the humor, but Kibblesmith wisely avoids that temptation and presents a story that allows these two worlds to clash and meld very well. So I'm giving this series a recommendation level of high. It's a great example of a story from both characters, and doing that with such different characters is actually a pretty impressive feat. The collected edition gets one, How You Like Meow, which I guess is a good thing? I mean, the series is only 5 issues long, and the only bonuses are the alternate covers, but what more extras do you really need? And it's a pretty good series overall, so maybe I'm being a bit generous, but hey, it's my channel. Thanks everybody for watching. Hopefully this gets more views than my last Black Panther video did. Anyway, as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time, right here in the Comic Cave.